There it is. Key is in the details. Look at the details. Want everyone give me an answer, so. Right out.
He's 10 minus 2 minus 3. What's a bomb?
Let's see. It's a clock. Scott. Scott here. Oh, Scott. I'll get names. It takes me a little bit. Levi. Aaron. SB's not here yet. Samuel Johnson. Nice. Nancy's not here. Carson. Andrew. Nathan. And Caleb. Xander. Brian. Asher. Okay. Now some of those are Safford students that don't get here till a little late. Everyone has an answer for it already? Okay, what do we get?
10.
I guess it's not fair since you saw it yesterday.
Yeah. It's like 10.
Huh?
It's
10?
50. 50. Dude, look at this block. There's just two.
The answer's 10. Okay, so look at the details here. Well, I'll zoom into the details here in a second, Kent. So what does the first one tell us? Oh, how about a marker that works? Cookies are 10 each on the top.
You're clearly not.
So then that cookie on the bottom on the next row is the same.
Yes, I am. Check this out.
Right, and the bananas are
2.
2 each, but really they're 1 each, right? There's just 2 of them. Yeah.
Sure.
Then, so we know what this next one is, right? The bananas are the same. Yep. The clocks are 30. Here's where it gets a little tricky. That clock on the bottom is different. Yeah. So these clocks are reading 3, right? What's that bottom clock? 2. 1 banana each. Something different about the chocolate chip cookie too. Oh, yeah. But there's something different about that chocolate chip cookie. There is 10 chocolate chips here. There's how many there? 7. What happens first? Order of operations. What happens first? Multiply first. 2 plus 1 plus 7 equals 10. I like putting these up here, and I'll do them from time to time, maybe about once a week. And I'll try to always bring candy so that if you get it right, you get candy. But the reason why I like to bring these into the programming class is because it's attention to detail that will matter when you're creating your programs. Right? Paying attention to those little details meant the difference between getting the question right and wrong. And when you're building your programs, it'll make the difference between, even if you can get it to function properly, it'll make the difference between a good program and a great program. Definitely important to pay attention to detail as you create your programs. All right, so we're going to continue on with chapter 2. I'm going to show you some more. We're going to work in Visual Studios, and I'm going to show you some more lines that you're learning for chapter 2. Then we're going to pop open my programming lab, and you're going to get to answer questions, code line questions, where they propose a question, and you have to write the code to solve the question. So we'll do those in my programming lab. But before we even open my programming lab, I want to just review some other stuff in Visual Studios. So let's open Visual Studios, plug in your jump drive if you don't have it done so already. That way you can save this on there. You'll be grateful to have these sheets of just code lines in there so that when you're working in my programming lab or on the programming challenges at the end of the chapter, you'll have that to fall back on to reference for notes and whatnot. All right, so we looked at variables. We looked at the print line last week. Now we're going to start looking at getting input from the user. So we're going to open up Visual Studios, and I know it takes a while, so I'll kind of slow down here and let yours catch up. Visual Studio is a really robust program, so it takes a while to load on these computers. We were supposed to get new computers over the summer, and because of COVID, you can't get anything. And so computers is one of those things that they just could not get the computers in. They've been on order since March. They still don't have them. All right, do you remember what we do here? And please tell me to slow down if you're still waiting on Visual Studios. We want to create a new project. We could possibly open the one we were working on last week and continue on with that, but I'm just going to create another one. They get a little lengthy, especially since we're just writing like small little one-liners and trying to run that each time. It starts ending up taking a lot longer to run, especially now that we're going to receive keyboard input. So I would just say, let's create another one. We can narrow the language down to Python, and we're looking for a Python application.
Oh.
So Visual Studios, create a new project, Python application. These are just practice, so we can call it chapter 2, practice 2, I guess. I can't remember what we called the last one. And then make sure you're going to the right location on your jump drive.
What do we need to say?
Chapter 2, practice 2, I guess. So I have a CMP124 programming folder in mind, so that's where I'm going to. Don't go any further than that. That way it puts it right in that folder, and then I hit create. Excuse me, I've had a tickle in my throat for the last few days now. All right, did we create? Still loading? It'll go. Yeah. Sometimes they'll crash and then the second time it'll load. Well, you guys are waiting for that. I'm gonna run to my office and get me some water and see if that helps with my throat here. Python application. When you're opening these, if you haven't seen that before, because we've really just created, we haven't reopened anything we've created before. This is what it looks like. See, there's my chapter 2 practice 2. And I want to open this SLN file. That's the solution file. Mine's blank because we haven't done anything yet, but that's how you reopen the ones you've already created. So we will get a chance to look again at the print statement and the variable declaration. But this time we're going to combine that with getting user input. We are always going to add comments and we'll overkill the comments because it'll be helpful when you go back to these for reference to be able to see those comments. I do type fast, so I'll try to slow down. Anything that's on a green line, if you want to abbreviate that a little bit, you can, but I do want to see you put comments. Remember, comments are just notes in your code. It is the equivalent to if I were writing this and I just jotted off a note in the margin or something. Right? So we always have to start with where this is going to go. So I'm going to grab user input from the keyboard and I want this to go somewhere. I want it to go into a variable. Do you guys remember what we said variables were? What's the variable? Variables will reside in memory, on your computer's memory. And it is just a place that we designate to store something. So if we're grabbing the user's first name, I might want to designate a place in memory called first name. The names of the variables can't have any punctuation other than an underscore. And you could either use an underscore or camel case. I'll show you both. I prefer camel case. The book uses underscores. So we're creating a variable. I'm giving it a name, first name. You could also use camel case instead of the underscore. Camel case is like this. Instead of using an underscore, they capitalize the first letter of each word to make it easier to read. Either way works. As long as there's no spaces in there. All right, the key to getting input from the keyboard is the word input. So input lets Python know that I'm about to receive information from the user, and I want to prompt the user for what they're about to enter. So inside parentheses, I put enter your first name, a colon, and a space. I noticed, I don't know if you remember, but when we were doing the print statement, it automatically put spaces in between the different items we were trying to print. For the input statement, it will not. It's going to print the prompt and then put the cursor immediately after the prompt. So if you don't put a space there, it's going to put the cursor right against the colon, which still works. It wouldn't be a problem. It's just we're used to seeing a space there rather than having what we're inputting being right up next to the colon. I can show you the difference here in a second. So that's it. We can run it at this point just to test it. We'll run it a lot more than we were running it the other day, just because now we can actually test keyboard input. So I'm going to run it. It'll bring up my console and I can put in my first name and hit enter, and that ends the program because we haven't done anything with it yet. But you can see there's a nice space after the colon for enter your first name before I put my keyboard input. If I leave that colon out, or the space out, excuse me, then it just makes me put it right next to without any space in between. All right, so let's grab last name. And we don't have to test every single one of these. You can, but we don't have to. Let's actually do something with these now. So review of the print statement, we can print, and anything we put in here will show up on the print line. We can separate different pieces by commas. So I could put in the word hello. Now hello goes in either a double or single quote because that's exactly what I want to put in. I literally want to put the word hello. Then I want to put the user's first name. So I'm going to separate it by a comma. And then the user's last name. In the print line, the spaces are put in for us, so I don't have to address the space after the word hello or a space in between first name and last name. It's going to automatically put it in there for us. And so now if you run it, you should see a program that asks for first name, then last name, and then prints a greeting. So try it out after you get those lines in. So what we did was created 2 places in memory. First name and last name. We asked the users to fill that in with information, and then we were able to retrieve from those locations. So now we're saving information into memory so that we can use it for building a sentence like we did in this one, or in a little bit, we'll look at actually doing some calculations with it. So let's try another one just to give it a shot. So I'll just give you the prompt and you program it. Get a user's name, age, and income. Just make name just one variable. You don't really have to write comments for every little piece. Right, we can do print name. Right, and then after that, all you do is display the data. The print lines. And we won't make this too fancy name. Bless you. Oh, missing. Anytime you're asking for input, unless I specify otherwise, it's just taking it as what's known as a string. That's the variable type, right? Because the variable that we have, it's holding a type of data. In this case, it's just a string, which is basically any character on the keyboard. It could be numbers, letters, punctuation, spaces are even part of a string. It's a string of characters. That works for what we've done so far, but for instance, for age and income, we put in numbers. We might not need to do any calculations with age, maybe if we were trying to figure out how old the person is going to be in 5 years, that kind of thing, maybe. Might do some calculations with income. Hi, guys. I tried to boot up some computers for you and load Visual Studios so that you'd be ready to go. So these ones that are on, I think 16's on, 7's on. I turned that one on. I tried to remember where you guys were sitting. If you guys always want to sit at those, I'll try to launch it for you. That way it's already ready to go and hopefully it won't take you as long to get started. The problem with those is I can't calculate with those. Okay, so your creating project. Project. And you want to change it to Python. Is it not letting you click on creating project? Change the language to Python. Let's get out right there. When it loads. We probably definitely need to be able to calculate with some of the numbers, right? So this won't work for everything we're going to do. We definitely need to do some work to make this so that we can perform calculations. So Brian, Billy, and I can't remember your name. Carson. Thank you. Then do you guys have your jump drives with you? We'll have to just create it. You need to bring a jump drive. You can save this work. All right, so the next example, we're going to want to calculate. So we know how to do this we already know how to do this. There's just a problem with it, right? Because we would do test 1 equals input, enter the first test score. problem with that is that I can't calculate with whatever they enter there. Because it would just be a string. I cannot calculate with a string. Just try closing it. Wonderful. So just give it. Go to the desktop for now. Might let me click on the button. Let's see if the one behind here is. Hi. Good morning. Hey. Come on in. So mine's just a license and you've got assessment. That's you can sit and it's right here. I was getting this ready. Oh, no. Sorry. I was gonna make you. I was gonna start teaching you programming.
Oh.
Yep, Python application for next. Next. And create, just create.
So we do want to hijack your class for 30 seconds.
Okay. Sure. What do you need from us?
Basically, we're doing a thank you video to the community, but also the state increased funding for things.
Okay.
And so we just want like waving or some thank you. I don't know. I'll let you come.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Can you guys all say thank you?
On camera.
On camera.
Watch
Watch this all get ripped.
That's what you wanted at 7 o'clock in the morning, is to be on camera.
Like, and each of the teachers do it too, just kind of on their.
I can say
Or
With
with their
it.
students or.
Where's the lights right now? This
You
one?
want full lights on?
Yes, please. Oh, it's fancy.
Just tell us how you want us to be.
If you could be, like, could you stand in there somewhere and just say thank you with them?
Sure. And wave, or are we just saying thank you?
Yeah, like wave, do whatever you want to do. Governor's gonna see this
We're
video.
thanking them for giving gift money.
Okay.
I gotta get out of the way. Because I'm already gonna be in another one.
Okay, you can tell us when.
Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can see.
Yeah, y'all gotta like look up.
Okay, go ahead.
Super excited.
1, 2, 3.
Thank
you.
Oh, that was kind of lackluster. One more time.
It is 7:30.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I grew up without stage.
Totally.
I followed him here, like I literally, like as soon as the flashing lights, when I jumped in. They're gonna try to-
It was better today than it was last week.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's still 7:30, but,
Yeah.
but I'm also, they're the only school that doesn't, so I'm grateful that they do.
I am too, but
But,
yeah, if they, whatever we can do, and I'll try to work things around to make it a little better.
ironically, some of them that are getting off the shuttle actually live closer to the college. I don't know how they're getting from their house.
Oh.
They can actually-
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was gonna teach you programming.
Next time.
You're about to be tossed. He needs to learn.
Okay, so the problem with this one is that we can't calculate with that. We need to turn it into a number that we can calculate with. What kind of number would we enter in here? Whole numbers? Decimal numbers? What do you need?
Whole numbers. That's.
Whole numbers would probably work in most places, right? In this particular case, we want decimal numbers, right? Because it is quite possible to get a 98.5 test. I'm increasing this test scores already, right? I'm expecting 98s. So the type of input that we're receiving goes first. So we're actually going to edit this line. And we're going to put in the type of variable that we can receive. The only variables that we're going to work with right now are floats and float is for floating point, right? It's a decimal number. So that's going to be your decimal numbers. Okay, and then integers, which are going to be ints. Those are whole numbers only. No decimals. Those are the two types of numbers that we're going to accept in this chapter. There are other kinds of variables, but these are the two we're going to work with. So anytime you need decimals, you're going to declare float. Anytime you need whole numbers, you're going to declare an int or integer. Okay, so we set decimal numbers on this. So we're going to modify this and we're going to add in float and a parenthesis. That means I need the closing parenthesis. The closing parenthesis is going to come at the end. That way the whole thing's in parentheses. That's what it looks like. So it's going to get the input from the user. It's going to give them the prompt of enter first test score. It's going to take that input. It's going to convert it to a float or a decimal number and store that in test one. So now I can calculate with it. Without the float part, you would not be able to calculate. So now creating the others is pretty easy, right? In fact, I am very big on copy and paste. Do you guys know the keyboard shortcuts for copy and paste? Did we talk about that on Control C, Control V? So I copy that and paste it. Ooh, maybe I didn't copy it. There we go. And then I just changed my my 1 to a 2, my 1 to a 3, and then change first to second and first to third. See how easy that was with copy and paste. Now, are you getting a little frustrated that you have every time you run this, you have to go back up to and do the first name, last name? Nobody getting frustrated with that yet when you test? I could show you how to solve that without deleting anything that we've written so far. Because if I run this, right, I get all the stuff that I already did. First name, okay, so I have to do a first name, a last name, then I get that, then I ask my name again, and then my age, right? Because we had all that prior. And there's finally the test scores. Gets a little bit annoying when you're testing something like this. So we can ignore this stuff up here on top. Here's how. Follow along with me. Go all the way to the top of your program. This is just to ignore that stuff on the top so that we can concentrate just where we're at. Go all the way to the top. Put 3 double quotes. 1, 2, 3. Everything turns red, underlined. Right? Now I'm only working on this, so I'm going to put the next 3 quotes right after the test. 1, 2, 3, or right before, I'm sorry. What that does is makes everything up on top be ignored, and now I can just concentrate on this portion. So now when I run it, I'll only be asked for test scores. It ignores the rest, but still leaves it there so that you can reference it later. So 98, 99, 100. So far, so good. Now I can calculate with it. So what we're going to do here, just to iterate a little bit. So we declared 3 variables. We called them test 1, test 2, and test 3. We told the system that they would all be floats. So that's the only thing they're going to accept. Did anyone try to put something different in there?
Yeah, I was curious about that.
You should be curious, right? We should find out what happens if I put letters in there. It crashes. Which we don't want programs that crash, but we're not ready to address that yet. So we're just going to assume our users are perfect. They're going to enter in the information the way we want them to. There's no such thing, by the way. Okay, so it will crash if you put in the wrong information because I've specified the test 1, test 2, test 3 are going to receive a floating point number. If it gets anything else, it'll crash. Now it's fine with a whole number because it just puts a 0.0 on that. Right, so if I don't put 0.0, it'll put that on for me. So that's at least understood. But if the user tries to put any letters or punctuation in there, it's not going to accept it. It's going to crash. Now, I want another variable called average, and that's where I'm going to store the average of those scores. So average is my next variable. And it is going to be equal to, what's my math?
Test 1, test 2, plus test 2, plus test 3, divided by 3.
Yep. But I need to be careful with what? Because if I just do test 1 plus test 2 plus test 3 divided by 3.0, I'm going to put 3.0 in here because they're floats. What's the problem?
It's gonna take, if it follows the order of operations.
It does.
It's gonna divide test 3 by 3 first. And
Yeah.
then do the other
So
two.
we need parentheses. You got it. It does follow the order of operations. Has it been a while since you talked about the order of operations? What is the order of operations? Tim does.
Parentheses.
When I was little, we used "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." Have you heard that one before?
Yeah.
right? The P is for parentheses, E is for what? Exponents. On a computer, you know how you write the exponents? Like if you're working on a word processor, you could superscript a number.
The little up arrow thing.
Yeah, but it's kind of hard to write that on a program in a programming language. It's actually the caret symbol. What number is it on? 6, I think. Am I right? I was right.
Yeah, that's what I meant by the arrow.
The what? What did you call it?
I called it an up arrow. I can't remember what it was called. It's called an up arrow. It's 'cause that's what it looks like.
Okay, and then multiplication on the computer is the asterisk, division plus subtraction. So there's your order operation. Now we can display the average, yeah. Goodness. Just can't seem to clear my throat. Don't forget the comma. Do I need a space after the word is? Print statement will automatically do it.
Okay.
I think when you're doing Python as a first language, it's excellent because some of these things that it automatically does is wonderful, makes it nice and easy. For someone who's programmed before, we always had to put in the space. If we didn't put in the space, it wants to put one in for us. And so sometimes that can get confusing. Now, if you run it and you put in 3 test scores, it should give you an average. So now you actually made a program do something other than just spit out the information that you had entered. So if we do 98.5. Is now calculating the average score. Now, average automatically gets treated like a float, and I know this can be confusing, but because the calculation had nothing but floating point numbers, it does get treated as a float. I could continue to calculate with the average if I wanted to. Great, so ready for a challenge of your own? So I want you in remaining seconds. So get a number of seconds from the user. In the book, they use 11730. I'll put that up on the board because it's nice to have an example. That way, as you're doing your calculations, you can see if you're getting it right. So 11730 is the number of seconds that we're going to enter, but we want that entered in by the user. So every time the user enters, they can put something else. Okay, we're just going to use this as our example because we know the answer to this. The hours is going to be 3. Minutes is going to be 15, I think. Yep, 15. And then the remaining seconds would be 30. Okay, so grab one input from the user, number of seconds, and do the calculations to display, to convert that to hours, minutes, and seconds. Oh, so you just want to get rid of that? Yeah, so it'll run this whole thing every time. It's not gonna ever just do that. So the way we solve it is come up here at the very top. Yep. Let's open top. And then right here. You put it here. And then when you run it again, it'll enroll. Yeah. And so with the quotes, you might want to move your quotes down, right? Let's take advantage of those. There's my quotes from before. I might want to get rid of those and move them down after the average. That way I can concentrate just on the new piece. So move those 3 quotes down. It just say it's fine if you don't do the quotes. You'll just have to answer all those questions every time just to test what you're currently working on. So that's different modes. Everyone hits that in programming for some reason and changes it, but it's yeah, it's the selection of the letter rather than just the insertion of the. Oh, you don't have any top ones. Oh. Did you get rid of those ones? Yeah, so what it does is make everything in between quotes in order. I know it's right under my ear, so type some things, but that's kind of green. Right now, we're going to work on my programming lab and making sure everyone's in there. I noticed a lot of you might have got your code, but then didn't finish registering for my programming lab. So we're going to do that today and make sure everyone's all set. Hopefully you took pictures and made notes of those codes from this week. I'll help you.
That was here last week. I just don't seem to remember anything about it. The program.
You here on Thursday? Yeah, you were. We all started registering for it. First part should be pretty easy. Number of hours is probably the easiest calculation, yeah? How do you get the number of hours? Divide by what? For hours. How many seconds in an hour? I see people like whispering. What is it?
3,600.
3,600. But if we do, oh. I'm gonna help you guys with this one a little bit because there's some math that we have to kind of make adjustments for, right? So if I do hours and I take the total number of seconds and I divide, which is a forward slash. If you ever get confused, always refer to your number pad. Your number pad shows you that it's the forward slash, not the backslash. 3,600. But what's the problem with that? I'm just going to put a print line for the hours really quick to show you that there's a problem with that. Oh, I put in another set of parentheses. So what's the number? 11730. 1730. So what's the problem? I want to know how many hours, minutes, and seconds there are. I want it to convert to just that. So I don't want the decimal place, right? So I don't want to know 3.258333333. I don't want the point. So there's some operations in the text. When we get into my programming lab, I'm going to show you some of these tables in the textbook because they're excellent. If we do this kind of division instead, 2 forward slashes, 11730. I no longer have my decimal places. So the double forward slashes are integer division. It divides one number by another and gives the result as a whole number. So it drops the decimal places. That's exactly what I want. That's all I needed to do was drop the decimal places. So the single division would have given me my 3.25, whatever it was. The 2 division symbols, 2 forward slashes, give me just the whole number. So I'm left with just my 3. All right, so now how do you calculate for the minutes? Figure it out. I'll let you work that one out for a little bit. I'll give it to you in a, I'll help you with it in a second. Give it a go. You're not going to break anything with programming. The key is to just start trying. That's how you're going to learn, by just jumping in there and doing. Think of your math. Test it as much as you need. We already know on this one, it should give you 15 minutes is what we're looking for. Bless you. So 11,730 seconds is 3 hours, 15 minutes, and 30 seconds. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. To me, it made sense to take the total seconds, subtract that from the hours, right? Because this gives me the number of seconds in the 3 hours that was calculated earlier. Subtracts those seconds from the total seconds. Yep, right? So that gives me the seconds that are left after it's calculated for the hours. Then, so that gives me the seconds that are left after it's calculated hours. Then what? Divided by, but I want the double division again, right? 60 seconds in a minute. Should give you minutes, and I can do a print line for minutes now. Is that the only way to do the math? Absolutely not. There's probably methods that are a little shorter than that. Makes the most sense to me though. You could make the seconds really complicated. You don't need to. Seconds are what's left over after it's all said and done, right? After all the math's done. Here's the shortcut for this. If I take the total seconds and I divide by 60 and just take the remainder, right? You probably don't do that in math too often anymore, right? You usually figure out the decimal points, but do you remember when we divided and calculated the remainder, what was left? What would be left if we divided by 60 would be the remaining seconds. So instead of dividing, we do percent 60. That percent gives me just the remainder when it divides. So it's gonna take the 11,730, divide by 60, but give me just the remainder, just what's left. In this case, it'd be 30. All right, so we could try this out. I still have this running. Here we go. 11730. 3 hours, 15 minutes, 30 seconds. Yes. It does work. The spaces should matter. It's just. You have extra. So it wasn't. Good now.
About seconds.
All right, so did you get that? Okay, let me just show you a few other things that might be helpful as you start working in my programming lab and on the programming challenges that we'll work on Thursday. These are pretty easy, just some other little things that you might be doing. So we've already got first name and last name. You can put those, you know what, let's do it with hours and minutes. That way we don't have to go back up and change anything that we did before. right? We could print or create a line that includes all of this information, right? So we could call it time equals, and build this along with me. Right, and then you can do hours. And you can build a line like this. Let's see. I don't think we need parentheses in this. Hours plus minutes space plus minutes. I'm putting each piece together with a plus sign. And we may have to deal with, I'm forgetting the space on the other side. You'll also need a space before minutes and before seconds. Otherwise, it's not going to put that. This is not a print line. I'm actually creating another variable and storing this information there. Make sure it's working the way I'm thinking. Hold on, I'll bring that right back up. Oh, it doesn't like it. I should have done last name. Bear with me. Let me make sure I can get this. I can show you what this concatenation thing does. This is called concatenation. You're building a sentence basically. Oh goodness. This is happier here. Hold on just a second and then I'll bring that back up. Because those were floats and I was trying to put it into a string, it didn't like it. So I had to convert them to strings. That's what the str is. I just basically built a sentence and held it in a variable called time and then printed time. So that would be another way to print, especially if you wanted things all on one line. You can make it possible to print everything on one line. So that just gives you another option. A few more things about the print line. Don't forget that items are automatically separated by a space. If I print that, it'll space them all out. But what if I don't want a space in between them? I can specify that too. If I don't want the space, I just specify that my separator is going to be equal to quote, quote, empty quotes. So the separator is nothing. That will make sure that it prints 1, 2, 3 with no space in between. You might be asking, well, when would I ever not want the space? There may come a time. And so there is a way to make that happen, right? Specify that the separator is nothing. So separator by default is a space. You could specify that the separator be nothing. You can also specify that the separator be something else. If you want a special, but I spelled that right. If you want a special character. Right, I could just put the special character I want. Let's say I want an asterisk. Now it'll print them with an asterisk in between all of them. Bless you. You can print tabs, 5 spaces basically. You can put tabs in your print lines. Use an escape sequence. An escape sequence is a backslash. Whenever the print line sees a backslash, it recognizes that the next character is going to give them instructions. So if I do \T, that together says this is, excuse me, this is going to be a tab. So 1 \T, 2 \T, 3 \T. Now I didn't put spaces in there because I didn't want a tab and a space. I just want a tab. And there's also the new line. The new line is an N. Oh, goodness. So I'll change these T's to N's. This would print each one of these on a new line. I know I could do that with printing 3 different print statements as well, doing 3 different print statements, but sometimes you just don't need that. You can do it in one print statement, just put /N, and each one of those will print on their own line. So type those in, then give it a run just to see what those different things do, and then you have a good example of them. Once you have that done, I want you to start getting into my programming lab. I will come around and help you. I want to make sure you are registered in the class. Once you're registered in the class, there are some programming challenges, and I want you to get started on them. We'll probably be working on them into Thursday as well. But I want you, now you have lots of examples. This is going to be your homework, is to take chapter 2 programming challenges in my programming lab home and see how far you get. I've got some receipts just in case we have any problems with registration. But I thought everyone had registered when we left class on Thursday, and I went and got into my programming lab, and I only had 3 students. Yeah. So when you're ready for my programming lab, holler at me. I'll come and help. And oh, look, it's just a picture. Okay. And you want the e-cards, right?
Yes.
So go to log into Canvas. So it's your Monster ID at Monsters. So the problem is all the way up here. So you see how this one is highlighted, so something in the middle, here you have it, extra parentheses right here. Is that crazy that just one little parenthesis and the whole thing starts highlighting in red? No, you can't. It is case sensitive. It's case sensitive. And then it didn't. So my programming link is in Canvas. Yeah, so did you do this part last week? Okay, so what you want to do is register as a student. So then you say, I'm new. And then this here, you're saying, yes, I have a code. You have your code from last week, right? Mhm. And then you're gonna go accept. You're gonna say, no, you don't. Yeah, so you're gonna put in, make yourself a username, something you remember, password, and you can check to see. if it's- Use your full, try your full email just to do that at monsters.east. Okay, so you're already in my program. So you can go to these, it gives you this, so you can put in what you want it to print, and then when you submit, it'll tell you what time. Not what you have. That's your record. Yeah. I'll get into my own here in a second, see if I can.
Why is that not working? I reset my password twice, and for some reason it's not
Uh-oh.
letting me in.
So there's a link to my programming lab right on the homepage. This is where I think people miss. So they got everything done except for didn't register. You're going to register as a student.
I don't remember if I actually registered or not.
You did.
But,
You
yeah.
were the one in class.
Yeah. I don't remember the username for it.
Oh no.
I was gonna just use like the whole use your email to get your stuff back, but I kind of don't know.
Okay, let me get in here and see if I can get any information. I don't know if I can. You've got to remember usernames and passwords because I can only retrieve so much.
Apparently my password was right every single time. It just, I wasn't allowed to from this website and I had to go to a separate website. I wasn't able to log into Pearson My Lab and Master. I had to log in at my Pearson. Also, did the course
Okay,
ID
hold on. Mine's not liking my username and password.
Yeah, it wasn't letting me log in here. I had to log into mypearson.com instead of here.
Yeah, don't use Edge. It just doesn't like Edge.
Also, it seems like this course ID isn't working.
I promise it works. Oh, Khalil, what it's looking here is just for you to do the string, so it doesn't want the print line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, where are we at? So you got your code from last time. You're just gonna finish your registration. So go to Canvas first. You haven't done it other part. Let me get you your. Aaron, right?
Why does it not want me to log into this website?
There you are. Okay, so open another browser tab. So this is what we did first. So give Flat all the licenses for this. You have to go to this website here, right there, shop.com. Okay, and then once you get the Pearson login, that it's going to ask for a course ID. The course ID is also in Canvas on the home page. Oh, great. Make sure you're using emails that you have access to. Otherwise, if you have to retrieve a password, I won't be able to help you.
The page you want is not available.
What are you trying to log into? What browser are you on?
Chrome. And then it just tells me that's not correct. So then it says
Try
check your-
closing the browser and redoing it. That's exactly what I was having trouble with, and I knew I had the right password in.
But then it let me log into this website fine with the same login. Close the browser. I'll try that.
So go to computer programming 1. And then my programming lab link is right there. And you're gonna go register as a student. And then I'm in US or Canada. What's that? Oh, yes, so you go to register a student and then you can purchase it. Ugh. So did you do this part already? Okay. So, well, now you can register. So let's try going to. Here, try logging in. Okay, so you are. Next. And then you would want it with the text, so I would say okay, next. And then you just go through, proceed through to get your account. You do have to pay for it before you get access to it. You're not offered that. Oh, that's okay. Let's do that. So if you go around the corner here, there's a lobby. And right before you get to the exit doors on the left side, there's a little hallway and there's. Yeah, so for size equals. Yes.
So,
Correct. So go, do you still have Canvas loaded up there? Yeah, I'm glad you got it. I was nervous.
Now I see the thing, that's why we got stuff going on.
Then also real quick, for this. Select the safe and correct save destination.
Do you have your filter?
Yeah.
Try. Try and find some out. See if it notify it. Did you find it?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. And then I should oh, yeah.
Just do it. Course code is located on the.
Yeah, that's pretty rapid.
Yep. Oh, I forgot this. I'll come over. So you have to purchase one. So you have to go to. No, you need to buy an access card. What you get is a receipt that walks you through. Yes. Because it gives you the e-text plus the my program. So behind it is the PIN number. Now, when the PIN number comes up, you want to make sure you get that. I even have the students take a picture with their phone really quick, just so you don't want to lose that. So you're going to say, no, I don't have a person account, and you would create a login, a password, something you'll remember, and the access code from last week. You took a picture of the number.
So I realized
I do, but I don't think it has to be, it doesn't have the access code, it just has the brightware.
So I realized that the account that I already had was from like high school. I'm still able to log into it from the My Home Zoom or whatever, but not here. I don't know if I need. a new
This
one
is
or
not the
what.
same code you need here. When we went to brightware, remember you took a picture? I saw you take a picture. Oh, no. That's what we absolutely need, because we didn't write it down. This code only gives you the access code. But we could try. Go to brightwave.com again, this site, brightwave. Oh, it's like this, BRYTE. Right here, brightwave.redshell.com. Okay, so let's say login, and then hopefully if you remember your login, we can retrieve it. Okay, where's everyone else at? So eventually you should get to this. These are your items that you're completing. All these numbered items, once you start completing them, they get replaced from red dashes to green check marks like that. Once everybody's in my programming lab, I'll show you some of the things you can use that'll help you troubleshoot as you're entering your code. These are going to be short one-liners. They're not asking for entire programs here. They're pretty quick and easy. So it looks like there's a lot. Like this first one was quote, 5 exclamations and a quote. 5 exclamation points and a quote. So super easy. Right? They're not asking for a whole lot. As you start completing them, it'll start adding check marks, letting you know that they're done.
So it's like.
So you probably use something else.
So microlearning languages is another way of doing that.
That's what I'm getting.
There's gotta be. Oh, well, see, but here, okay, maybe this is it. So, close this one up. Because it's. Go to that and try to solve it.
No, it's a lupus of the.
Let me see if you got into class. Okay, hold on just a second. Nope. No, Sam, I don't have you in here yet, so you might have registered the thing, but not ever gotten into the class. So we've got to figure out what your username and password are.
Hey, do we need to print the page as a receipt? Do we need to do that?
If you need it, I don't need you to show me a receipt. If you need a receipt, you can absolutely print it. So given two variables. Which number is that one?
51093.
Yep, so they start to get challenging pretty quickly, right? So given two variables, metric age and grad age, write a statement that makes the associated value of grad age 4 more. So then you're just saying grad age equals metric age plus 4. See if that's it. Nope. Oh, I misspelled something, didn't I? Grad age, not grade age. So it just wants you to take the metric age and add 4. So grad age equals metric age plus 4. That's it. Oh, were you able to get the code? Good. Okay, so. Okay, let's close this one. No, 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 no. Go with this unit. Okay, so it's just, that's not available. Right? You can check it. I know, but there's probably lots of people. And so won't let you use that. So how about using your monster? And then do add monster set, because that probably is gonna be too short. Let's just check. You could check availability if they did something like that. So do add monsters. Did you check it?
No way. You'll be asked.
Some African trade.
Absolutely. They could get rid of it. That's the US
So it says that username is already used. You can check availability on these.
I like the one page, yeah. This is t-shirt.
What's the, what is the access?
Well, now people just do it on their own computer and let the software generate it and it remembers it. The problem is if you ever leave that computer, then you don't. So it did register you? Do the same.
Yes, for some reason it's working for me, even though I just made it.
Small trades.
So then we do this. And this last code is this. So copy that, put that in the window. Next. Next. Yay! Why did it do that? There we go, finish. Yay, now you're in.
Yeah.
Yep. What do you got, Tim?
So I don't, so like nothing was sent to my email, so I don't think I actually like finished it. I think I like halfway made an account somehow.
Okay. We may have to go see if they can help us at the bookstore. That will be our only other option.
Some reason, I believe just. Username, password on my phone. So I wouldn't get it. I typed in. It doesn't accept. And then I go and try to count.
Try closing it. I just have to close the browser.
It's not even my fault.
I just don't understand how this is all.
No.
Like, I just don't get like aware of the issue.
I would go through the forgotten password just to see. Okay, so I know we're about out of time. So before Thursday, go through those challenges in chapter 2. Everything, well, as much as you can, except for don't do the programming projects. They're a little bit more complicated. So do as much as you can. I know that looks like there's a lot, but So many of them are just quick little one-liners. So you should be able to get those done fairly quickly. Now, who still is not in my programming lab? I know you're working on it, Billy.
I'm sorry about it, it just wasn't paid for some reason.
Aaron, I need you to
I
sign
meant-
this.
Why would this accept?
Anywhere, there's a signature. There's a signature.
I know if I do this. if one of my-
You got it. I need to know everyone who's still having trouble with my programming lab so I can.
Oh,
talk
you need
to them.
those receipts?
Yep, I need those receipts too.
So,
Those have to be turned back into gifts.
I just don't understand why this is happening. And who designed this site in a way that she's teaching a programming class where it's so poorly designed.
So Sam, I'll see about going, did you sign it? I'll see about going to the bookstore and seeing if we can do anything.
Okay, all right.
Thank
you. So sorry for being a problem.
Nope, that's okay. Well, and I guess I should have waited until we had more time. We did it Thursday and then everyone left and I went, nobody's registered.
I'm pretty sure I might have like left.
Okay, we
Sorry
will,
about
we'll
that.
figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Well, I don't know which book it's running. I
Oh.
meant to do. Does it just have to be this one right here?
Yes.
I don't think so.
I just need the.
You got that?
I,
The course ID is on the homepage in Canvas.
okay. Oh.
Yay, looks like we did. Do you have a question for me? Okay, send me an email, I always do my classes. Maybe we'll have to do a flashlight, but we'll be able to watch some of my cartoons. Class. All right, I'm sorry for that. Sounds good. You got it, so I know. You too. Don't even think I'm on it. No, you have to meet the shuttle, don't you? Okay, so go next real quick. It's just first. And then come to the program, copy that program code, make sure you've got a space. You have to make sure
Oh my.
that's there. Place that in. Next. And you finish. You're registered. Oh, can you sign this for me?
I think students should get.
Yeah,
some
there you go.
discount Depending on how many numbers and typos they find on the websites.
You what?
I think we should get discounts for how many typos we find on the websites. There are.
If you told me that, you know how many discounts, I am the world's worst speller.
It says that my username is in use, but it won't accept the password. Or even accept it when I try to put in the email address because it,
So did you already pay?
no,
Okay.
I hate this so much. How is this so poorly designed? I don't understand. They are programmers. It's a programming class. It shouldn't be this bad. Like, I just don't understand how.
So it's a one-to-one price.
Because I've already done this, except for it didn't go through this. It just accepted what I put in. Like, because you don't go to, it's like, here, make it thing. It accepted that and it just took me to the next page.
Okay, so you.
There
have
we go.
now- okay. So let's create a login name. Let's do it together and see. So-
See, boom.
Okay. Let's just start fresh.
Now, were we turning in
So
the
we're going
thing
to
from
register
Visual
student.
Studio?
Yes, I'm sorry, Chandler, what?
Were we turning in the thing we did in Visual Studio? No, okay. Sorry.
Let's see, Chandler. I have a feeling that he's saying that username is used.
I've already done this though.
Okay, but it's not gonna accept whatever was in there before, so. Let's check availability. So it's not-
But why didn't it do this the first time?
What's your monster? Use monster.
What's that? Just hits on the floor.
No, 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 not your student, your monster. It won't be like your email accounts.
Yeah, Lily's seen this one too.
Right, but I would put at monsters. You said that, and I'm gonna end the Zoom session really quick, so can